welcome back to Intuitive Shutter. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be taking a look at 5 tips for film photography, so let's get into it. What you could see were some of the very first shots I took in terms of film photography. There's a lot of failed shots there, and it can be quite daunting when you're a beginner in film photography. So I wanted to share 5 tips. I know it's very subjective. It doesn't mean that this is kind of like the best way for film photography, but these are some tips I wish I knew when I started film photography, and I'm sure it can help you progress a lot faster and understand the process in a better way. So let's get into 5 tips. Tip number 1. We're going to talk about the type of camera and gear that you should use. So first thing I would recommend is starting with 35mm. The reason why is you're going to have 36 exposures or 24 depending on the film you're shooting, and this is going to allow you to practice and be able to not count your shots as much, because this is one of the hard parts in film photography. The amount of shots you have is limited, so we'll start with 35mm film. Secondly, I would recommend to use a camera that is fully manual. And the reason behind that is that you want to understand the process behind aperture, speed. You don't want to have the camera do all the work for you, because you're not going to learn how to use film if you do. So of course, automatic cameras are great further on, but to begin with, you should start with a manual one. I'll put a list of some cameras here that I would recommend trying out that are not expensive and manual, and SLRs, because it's important to have an SLR. The reason why is if you go with a viewfinder, you're not going to be practicing how you make your focus as well, because SLRs, single lens reflexes, you see through the lens and it goes through a mirror into your eye. That's kind of the best way to practice focusing and manual focus. So we'll put a list here, and also we made a video on a camera that is the SRT 101 from Minolta. I would definitely recommend that camera to start with. It's a very good contender, so if you want to watch the video, I'll put it in the description as well. When it comes to lenses, I tend to recommend shooting with prime lenses. So what it means, prime lenses means that they have only one focal length. So for example, it's a 50mm or it's a 35, but I wouldn't recommend zooms to start, because if you get used to zooming, you're never going to really get used to moving yourself and to make your composition with the lens you have. You're going to tend to zoom all the time, and you're not going to progress as well in terms of composition and making great pictures overall. So zooms can be great further on, but definitely would recommend prime lenses to begin with. So that's it for tip number 1. Just keeping it simple, no need for expensive gear, and I think with those guidelines you really have the best chances of starting with film photography and understanding the process. Tip number 2. This tip is going to be about the types of film you can shoot. I would recommend shooting various film stocks. The reason behind that is each film has different speed, each film has different tones, and you really want to try those film stocks until you find what you like and what you enjoy shooting in a way. So I would recommend some amazing film that I like shooting, but maybe that's not going to be what you like shooting. So try them. I would just name a few of them. Hector 100 for a very slow film with fine grain. You also have the infamous Portra 400 that everybody shoots, and we shoot it a lot as well because the tones are just amazing and it's very versatile. You also have some more extreme films per se, like Cinestill 800T if you're doing night photography and you want that cinematic look. That's amazing. Lomochrome purple if you want to try out what it looks like. It's really interesting to see the colors shift and all of that. Black and white film, I would recommend shooting black and white. It's going to help you work on composition a lot more because you don't have colors to make your picture pop. So when you're shooting black and white, you're gonna have to work on that composition value, and that's something that is amazing. So I don't know, like Hilford HP5 is a very good black and white film, for example. So the tip here is really just to try different film stocks, and you're gonna enjoy it a lot. Even if it's expired film, we made a video on that. For example, expired film has tones that are very mysterious, and usually you don't know what you're shooting when you're doing it, but it adds a lot of fun to the process. So definitely look into different film stocks and don't stay stuck shooting always the same film stock. Tip number 3. This one is quite simple, and it's to use a light meter. The reason behind that, I don't think you'll have failed shots and you'll be missing all of the shots if you don't use a light meter. But if you do use a light meter, it's going to be way easier for you to understand the relationship between shutter speed and aperture. Once you understand that, you're going to have a lot more freedom into your composition. Do you want to have a blurry part in the picture? Do you want everything to be in focus? Do you want to shoot at a fast speed so that you capture, for example, it's snowing today, if you want to capture the snowflakes, you want a faster shutter speed. So understanding all that is going to be much easier if you're using a light meter. So there's great light meters for phones. So if you are downloading an app, I think the one we use is called Lux. You're gonna have a very good light meter with that. It's gonna help you take your shots, and definitely it's gonna make you progress a lot faster than if you were just winging it and then, you know, expecting to learn from that. Tip number 4. This one is a little different. It's not based on gear. It's more about what types of pictures you take. And usually when we start doing film photography, a lot of us will have that style in their mind that they want to shoot like. For example, maybe you like street photography, maybe you want to do cinematic photography, maybe you're interested in only night photography, maybe, you know, there's so many types of photography, but usually we have kind of an idea in your head. I wouldn't stay into the field that interests me only. You should try and shoot different styles. So whether it's shooting portraits, shooting landscapes, shooting night photography, try it all, because in the end what you're gonna like and enjoy shooting might not be the same thing that you thought you would like shooting when you started with. Just to give you an example, I ended up doing a lot of night photography because I love walking at night, for example. So you see, your lifestyle is also kind of going to dictate what you like taking as pictures. If you're someone that lives in the middle of a city, doing landscape photography is going to be quite hard for you because maybe you don't have access to landscapes. If you're someone that is very social, it's going to be easier for you to take portrait photography. So don't be stuck in your ways of what you thought you would take as pictures. Let kind of the rhythm of your life guide you into taking different types of pictures, because that's how you're going to progress and you're going to find your style, what you like to take as pictures. Last tip, tip number 5, and I think it's the most important of all: practice. That seems silly to say, but it's the only way you're going to be efficient at progressing in terms of film photography is by practicing. If you load a roll of film in your camera and you shoot it in maybe 6 months' time, you're not going to be able to progress with that film that much. You need to practice as much as you can if you want to get better at it. So one of the little tips inside the tip that I would give: bring your camera with you. It might seem silly, but sometimes we think that for taking film photography, it's only when we dedicate that space in our head. Today I'm going to have a walk and I'm going to take film photography. But the best way is actually to have your camera with you and to be able to capture moments that matter to you. So maybe it's just, you know, you're at a party with friends, or maybe you're having a walk and you didn't expect to stumble across something that you want to like take a picture of. So bringing your camera with you is going to help you take various types of pictures. It's going to help you capture moments instead of just, you know, practicing photography for practicing photography. Because the best way you're going to be able to take pictures that are meaningful to you is if they represent moments or things that you like, that you enjoy, that are not, you know, usual things of what you see every day. So definitely I would recommend bringing your camera with you and practicing as much as you can, and that way you're going to really be able to see the improvement from one film to the other until you are really satisfied with the technique that you have. And if you combine that with all of the tips that you had previously, you should have a very good understanding of film photography. And really the goal here is that you are able to kind of like master that technical aspect. So that way, when you want to create an image and when you want to kind of express yourself, because, for example, the name of this channel is Intuitive Shutter. I think there's a lot of intuition into photography. So when you master the technical aspect, you can really express your intuition and take the pictures that are meaningful to you. Thanks a lot for watching again. So yeah, today a little of a different video, some tips that I wanted to share with you guys. Definitely some things that I wish I knew when I started photography, as I said. hopefully it will be helpful for people to start, for beginners, or maybe for people that are already taking great pictures but want to have kind of a fresh view on that. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and you'll see us on the next video.